With over 7,000 islands and 110 ethno-linguistic groups, the Philippines is one of the most diverse and complex societies in the world.
Preview. Your attention, please. Please do not smoke.
Today, I am traveling to the center of the archipelago, the city of Iloilo. Despite being one of the fastest growing areas in the Philippines, Iloilo has one of the highest number of poor families in the country, where more than 1 in 4 people here live below the poverty line. And I am heading right into the heart of it, Haro District, where I am meeting 2 Singaporean missionary workers, Lily and her husband, To Mi Lim.
Lugar lang. When embarking on this trip, I really wanted to learn what Lily and Tony were doing here in the Philippines, why their work here is so important, and why they can't go home. Hi, nice to meet you. Hi, Lily.
Yeah, how are you?
I'm good.
Now in their 50s, Lily and her husband have been helping the indigenous Aita people, one of the earliest inhabitants of the Philippines.
This is my medical team.
Okay, wow.
We are going to bring them with us to this
Yes.
place called Barotak Viho, where the
Okay.
indigenous people are. Are you willing to join us?
Sure, why not? Let's do
It'll
it.
be an
Yes.
eye-opening experience for you. This is going to be a whole day medical mission. This part of the town called Barotak Viho is one of the towns that has the highest density of the indigenous people.
Okay.
The Ilonggos, we call them the Ate.
The ate.
Ate means black.
Okay, and that's not a derogatory term. It's okay.
As we head to the mountainous town of Barotac Viejo, Lily tells me about how she and her husband Tony had left marine insurance and the Singapore Civil Defense Force to pursue a 2-year mission to promote their faith and help impoverished communities in the Philippines.
When we first came here, our life was really very, very tough for us. We were paid $400 as my starting salary. I think for him it was $500, you know. We drank and cooked from the rainwater instead of from the well water, and that's how we survived.
Lily dreamt of becoming a doctor after she completed the mission. But once in the Philippines, 2 years became 33.
My eldest was born in the Philippines, born in Iloilo specifically, and she left for Singapore at the age of 15. My youngest left at the age of 13. But the one that is really like feeling the brunt of everything is my youngest daughter, because she says that she's alone in Singapore, and she said, why can't I have just a normal family where I come home and my parents are there and the food is on the table and the lights are on? Why must I always return to a place where I have no parents?
They always felt that we are second in their life. But as they see the way we do the work, they begin to understand our motivation, and they begin to come to respect us. In fact, recently, 2 of my daughters said that, Daddy and Mommy, 2 of you are just awesome people.
2 hours later, we arrive at Nagpana village, high in the mountains just outside Barotac Viejo. Hidden from view of passers-by, it is home to some 741 indigenous people called the Aita or Ati. They speak a language called Inati, but they use the common Ilonggo language, which Lily and Tony have also learned to speak.
The first thing I see is that the people here are so different. So their hair was a little bit coarser, wavy. All the complexions were just so different, so unique. People had these beautiful eyes that were incredibly light on their dark skins.
I I soon find out that the Ati are genetically related to other Negrito ethnic groups in Asia, Polynesia, and Africa. They are traditionally hunters, but they also farm the land, planting rice and corn to survive.
The Ate original owner of the lands of Penang, but because of commercialization, they were pushed further and further up, and they were pushed to the mountain. And when there's no source of food, they come down to the city and they became beggars.
Even though the government has provided for them free medical treatment and free medicines in the town hospital, and they'll give priority to the Filipinos who are paying for the medical services. They will try not to go to the hospital because they felt very discriminated.
So, Lily decided to bring a team of medical doctors and dentists to the Ati instead. And that includes volunteers.
We just want to reach out to those that is not accessible, you know.
Let's go help the trash. No, I'm afraid not. But you know what? If there's a task you give me and you show me, I'm sure I can perform.
Okay, do you know to measure the height?
162.
Our concern is always to go not only to the marginalized people but to the forgotten people. They are the forgotten people of the land of the Philippines.
It really feels like I'm watching a mom and a dad speaking to their children or their nieces, their nephews. It's really just like it's a family thing. Seeing it in person, I know why their work here is so important and why they can't go home.
Isolated in the remote mountainous communities, the Ati have little or no access to affordable health care. As a result, the mortality rates are high.
Babala mo na mga may lupus ka, ang mga ginagawa mo sa doktor. Pero subong way ka naubo? Naubo ka? Wala. Gamay na lang. Okay na.
Lupus is a disease where the body's immune system attacks normal and healthy tissue. There is no known cure. Mahal has no access to the medical care she needs to manage her symptoms, and her disease is getting worse.
When I met the patient with lupus, Mahal, when I saw her, I thought about my little sister back home in Singapore, who isn't much younger than her.
Daw pag 18
pag-birthday
sa wala
mo.
pa maubos, maunot ang buhok niya.
Okay.
Oo. Gulpi lang sa mo.
I was shocked because the girl that I saw in that photo was not the same girl that I saw in that bed. She was so beautiful. She had just the most amazing smile and aura from these pictures. And then to have that snatched away and for it to happen so quickly. If there's anything that I've come to realize is that miracles do happen in life.
Kaya kung natalupanggan nga, may milagro nga nagakatabo.
I know that if she had the right kind of medical attention or treatment, she definitely could have been helped. But she didn't have anything there.
Ang adi siya nakabutang 20 milligrams.
Sana magkaroon sila ng kanilang health center kasi malayo dito ang ang medical help na ipaparating ng ating gobyerno. Ito kasi kita ninyo kanina ang daan, paikot-ikot tayo sa bundok, doon sila aakyat sa isang bundok o bababa at saka aakyat. So mahirap talaga.
Oh, kamusta ka? Zander, this is the patient. We will need to carry him, siguro, Zander.
Yes, okay, we'll carry him.
We need to carry him.
We'll be using a stretcher we have. There was an older gentleman living in a hut, but he wasn't able to walk. I thought that there would have been some form of medical assistance, someone who would be able to, grab a stretcher or drive a vehicle up there to collect him. Honestly, it's really hard to comprehend. This doesn't happen back home. Like, we would not have to carry someone ourselves on our backs to bring them to see a doctor. It just wouldn't happen.
Is there any water?
After carrying him over the rocky terrain, we finally brought the gentleman safely to Lily and her team for medical treatment. Every year, Lily and Tony spend about $12,000 to put together at least 3 medical missions in Iloilo and nearby provinces. The missions are funded mostly by donations from their congregation here and friends in Singapore. Their daughters donate most of the medicines.
Before we raise the money, we ourselves will always come up the most. You will see it's like a domino effect. You know, they will start giving generously, but also in time-wise and also physically.
We cannot help everybody. You have to be honest with yourself. We'll do the best we can.
Just a few kilometers from the Ati community in Nagpana, another village is in need of their help.
This place was even farther away than the previous day. The deeper we go in, the less support and infrastructure there is. We had to stop our car a good hour out, and the rest we had to trek into the village.
Lily and Tony will see them for the very first time. I am Zander, winner of Masterchef Singapore. I'm on a mission to the indigenous mountain communities in the Philippines to meet Singaporeans Lily and Tony Lim. The couple have been helping the Ati people for the past 33 years. Today, we are heading to Sitio Tigbao. 32 indigenous families here have been living without access to potable water and electricity.
Alright, I can do it. Alright.
Yeah, okay. Okay, guys, if you don't mind me asking, you're not getting any younger, and walking up and down to these little towns and settlements is quite tough. Are you planning to stop at all?
No, not till we serve our 40 years here in the Philippines. We plan to continue even until the day we retire.
We have arrived.
Oh, we are here.
If I thought the day before the people were in hardship, this was another level. And for the structures, the materials have to come around, so they would chop the wood around them. There was this little shed. What I realized was that that was the toilet for everybody. It was for the whole village. They were really in a tough position, and you could see that immediately.
Cut off from the outside world, many of the Ati of Sitio Tigbao also suffer from malnutrition, depending on the land and the creatures living around them for food.
This is a halo.
This is a monitor lizard.
This is a halo.
Monitor lizards and the tortoise is not only for food. It is also, we call our medicinal food.
I see. And how often will you eat monitor lizard or turtle?
Oftentimes.
Often?
If they have. As of now, the monitor lizard is very exhausted.
So it's really whatever the land gives you is what you eat.
But the harvest season is now over, and the weather has turned hot and dry. Getting food has become much more difficult. And that's why Lily and her husband have come here to help.
There are many times when we're in the city and we see them begging, we felt for them because we feel that the land belongs to them, and then now they are homeless, and they have been relegated to being a beggar and being looked down upon and sometimes being bullied too. So, sini nga ulaw, maluto ako sa inyo tanan. So, pas pansit. Okay, so nanamian ka mo? Alright. So, Zander, I'm going to cook for the whole community today. I need you to go up to the upstream there to fetch the water for the cooking.
The water for the cooking of the noodles,
Yes.
we need to go upstream to take it.
Yes.
Just before I went on this trip, I had a pretty bad viral infection and I was feeling really weak. But when I saw all the people, the villagers that were sitting around waiting for food, I knew it's like, of course I gotta go. I gotta go, and I was just like, I gotta make it work. I think we've been pointing in the upward direction for the last 15 minutes and we're still going up. All right, I'll follow you. Because we're in the dry season right now, the river is all but dried up completely. So here it is, the source of the water. All right, okay. Here. Okay, let me go in. Okay, it's quite a lot. Hold on. Maybe put down for a sec. I'm exhausted. I'll be honest. This thing is really, really heavy. We filled it right to the brim. I don't know how many liters is in this thing. The terrain doesn't help, and it's hot.
Sa ngayon, walang intervention pa dito sa community. Kailangan nila dito yung nabanggit ko kanina, yung daan papunta ng maghatid ng kanilang mga produkto dito na maani, yung mais at saka iba pang produkto tulad ng saging at saka mga root crops.
We really miss the food in Singapore a lot. So, in the first year of our stay here, we will always try to cook all the Singapore dishes that we miss.
Yes.
And it's so hard to find the ingredients here. So we had to really improvise all the Singapore dishes that we miss.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So with the dishes that we're making here today, we have 2 massive pots going here. How many people can this feed?
100.
100.
100.
Between the 2 of them?
Yeah. Banana trunk.
Here in Iloilo, they are the second highest case of malnutritious kids in the region. And so I can think of no better cause or thing to do with your time than what the LIMS are doing right now. And that is feeding these kids who need the food. They're probably lucky if they have 1 meal a day.
Sa sini nga sitio, pila ka bata? Mga bata diri, wala ang population bata.
Sa 30.
30. And then, 30 ka bilog, pila ka bilog wala education pa.
Madam.
Madamo.
Lalagko na dire mga bata naguntat sa pag-eskwela tungod hindi sila kagwantas paglakat pakadto sa school. Ugay ko na naman gin pangamuyo, urang nagabot na gid mang time nga kamo.
With their homes in isolated mountain communities of the Philippines' Western Visayas, many of the indigenous Ati people have no access to basic education. 3 out of 10 are illiterate, unable to find a decent job to provide their families with adequate housing and food. And the cycle goes on.
I'll be honest, when I first got here, I really thought that they were getting a lot of donations from external sources. But when I spoke to Pastor Lily, she told me that actually they had to make tremendous sacrifices, firstly to build what they have here and then to sustain. So they sold their apartment in Singapore, which they spent nearly 20 years trying to repay off.
Missing significant events with their loved ones was also among the biggest sacrifices Lily and Tony had to make.
Sometimes, like the weddings of my daughter, I don't even have the opportunity to go back.
My dad passed on when I was in the mission field here, very suddenly in 1991. And by the time I arrived home, he passed on, and I was so guilty. I'm sorry. I felt I was like a hypocrite, loving strangers, and I couldn't be at the deathbed of my dad. I just felt that I failed him because my dad didn't want me to come here as a missionary, but my dad loved me so much.
Just seeing what they sacrifice and the reasons for doing it really makes me feel like, hey, if I want something and I want it bad enough, I can do it. I can do it. I've just got to not listen to all of the noise, the criticism, and just run with it, like they did. The problem is much bigger than just the villages up in the mountains. It's here in the heart of Iloilo City as well. And the poverty out there is beyond what I could have ever imagined, and I don't know how just two people can change that.
Behind our church are the squatters. So these are all the community poor children. Our long term is to raise funds, to give them the support, provide scholarship. We believe in educating the younger generation because, I mean, if you feed them, it's just touch and go.
That's right.
But if you invest in the education, it stays with them.
All of you receiving the EduPacks. Ano ang EduPacks? Stationery.
Watching a child just in pure joy in that moment. When things are hard, they're going through so much hardship, but just something so small, that token can give them an insurmountable amount of joy that they forget what's happening in their lives. And in that moment, they're just the happiest little boys and girls, like anywhere in the world.
Since I arrived in the Philippines, I have seen how much Lily and Tony have changed the lives they touch. This time, I hope to touch their lives by cooking something special for them.
This one is my secret seasoning for the chicken. Please come take a seat.
Oh, you cooked the nasi lemak.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
That's right.
She will love it a lot.
More, right? Singaporean.
And now I'll be the one.
Oh dear. It's amazing how many of our childhood memories and a lot of those dearest memories
Yes.
of ours really tie back to our food back home.
I think the one that made this for me is my mom, who passed on already. I will always remember home, my loved ones at home, my children, and the culture of Singapore.
I just wanted to show it as a token of appreciation and just admiration for the work you're doing here.
Thank you so much.
I don't think it will come to an end because if you take outreaches to the community from our practice here, it's like, you know, removing one of the DNA from our strand.
We intend to raise a group of second generation leaders, and when we reach the 40th year, we allow them to take up the leadership.
Ever since I've been here, the two of them, I could tell immediately just how genuine the two of them were because of the way in which they interacted with the Ate people and those around here. They will invite people for meals. They will help with the cleaning, the de-ticking of a little girl's hair with their own hands to show and to lead by example. They hold them really like their family, and there's really a lot of love there. I'm already thinking about what I want to do when I get back to Singapore. We may not have indigenous people and tribes who are illiterate or malnourished, but there are a lot of people who need help. I think if I reached out to people in Singapore, be it friends, companies if they want to jump in as well, I think a lot of people would help. I think Iloilo City could use a few more Lily and Tonys to help out.